Hello and welcome back to the Rice Robotics Club Robo-Tutorial. In this video, we'll be moving on to our second subassembly as we work towards a full assembly of our robot arm. And this subassembly will be between link 1, this rod, and the servo horn that connects to them both. So we'll be making use of more fastened mates just as we did in the previous step, and we'll also be using a new kind of mate called a group mate. So back in the Onshape document, create a new assembly from the file select. And we'll start by inserting all of the parts that we need. So we need to insert link 1, click in the dialog, and then drag out and click again to place it in the assembly, and then we'll include the same servo horn as before. So note that we don't need another servo horn file, because every time we pull this servo horn into an assembly, this is just going to be another instance of this part. So it's not like we need to import multiple servo horns if they're all identical. We can just use the same file for this new subassembly. Click the green check mark to finalize the selection. Now, the problem, before we start adding the fastened mates, just as we've done before, we're going to have some issues with these two parts. They're separate bodies. They're in the same part studio, but in that part studio, they're separate bodies. So if we grab this rod and we drag it, it can totally move independently of this other body. But we don't want that because the way that we designed it originally in the part studio is exactly how we want it to show up in the assembly. So you can go about two different ways of fixing this. Either you can add a bunch of mates between link 1 and the rod just to make sure that it's always locked in its initial position that it has in the part studio, where this rod is always inserted properly inside of link 1. Or we can use what's called a group mate, which it just acts between two or more bodies. So we'll go ahead and start that now. Up here in the assembly toolbar, there's a group mate here. Select a group mate, and then you just select all the bodies that you want to include in the group. In this case, just the rod and link 1. And by grouping them together, we make sure that they'll never move independently of one another. So hit the green check mark. And now with this group mate, if you once again try and move the rod, the two bodies will always move together. So if this wasn't the configuration that we wanted, if we wanted to orient the two parts differently than we did in the part studio, that would be fine. We could totally do that. But in this case, since they were already in the proper positions, the group mate is the quickest way to deal with properly orienting these parts with respect to one another. So the group mate has been added, and now all that's left is a few more fastened mates, just like in the previous subassembly. So first, we're going to fasten this top face of the rod to the origin. So in order to complete this fastened mate, we're going to first add a mate connector to the center of this servo horn cutout, just like we've done before. And we want this mate connector, this position, to coincide with a mate connector at the origin. So we have one mate connector here. We're going to place another mate connector to the origin. You'll see that they move so that they are in the same position, and they're fastened to one another. So if we finalize that mate, then we click and drag link 1. It can no longer move because it's fixed to the origin, and so it has no more degrees of freedom with respect to the origin. So now we will add one more fastened mate. It's going to be between this servo horn cutout and the front face of the servo horn, just like we did before. Remember, if you select the front face, it's going to place it in some weird position, but if you select this circular edge, it places it at the center, and you'll see it snap into place. Just like last time, it is oriented incorrectly. It's phasing inside of this rod. Hit flip primary axis, and now it looks correct. So finalize that mate. And now that looks good. So this is our second subassembly done. So the subassemblies go pretty quick because we've already CAD'd all of the parts individually. Now we just need to apply mates between them so that they are fully defined in their subassembly. So just if you click on any part of this assembly, it's fully defined. There's no additional degree of freedom for any of these parts. So name the assembly appropriately. Make sure to sort that subassembly into the subassembly folder. And now we're ready to move on to the next step.